I was just waiting for you to do that. Figured I'd see how many times you did
it. Just killing time, just making my own elevator music. We're almost through the first season of DS9, and
it.
I can't believe I waited this long.
I've heard very good things.
It's really good. In fact, Cisco might be my favorite captain, like ever. Yeah, yeah,
Beating Janeway and Picard.
barely, but yes. Although I'm going to have to go ahead and rewatch my next gen and Voyager just to make sure. But Cisco has a sense of humor that keeps turning up in very subtle ways, and also his there's a recurring theme where someone comes up to him and is like, I want to do something really stupid and follow my gut, and he will say, officially I'm completely against this and will prevent you from doing it. Here are the keys.
That does sound pretty great.
It really does. He's awesome. And the supporting cast is outrageously good. Um Very relatable and complex. I just watched an episode with Loxana Troy showed up because she does that, and it actually gave her a really well. They do tend to give her an arc where it's like, look, I'm an obnoxious, egocentric bitch. Oh wait, I have a heart of gold. Roll credits.
And then she comes back later, and you're like, oh, you're back to the beginning of this arc again, are you?
Yep, yep. Or before she leaves, like right before they roll credits, she'll make a filthy joke just to make it clear that the persona is firmly back in place.
Hmm.
But yeah, I I don't know. I hear it gets really squirrely later on, so maybe it's just season one that I love so much. But that's what I've been doing.
Nice.
Neat.
I have been watching a couple of episodes of a show called Prodigal Son. I don't think you would like it, but um, I will tell you about it, and that way you don't have to watch it
Thank you.
because it's Michael Sheen playing. Well, okay, so the main character is not Michael Sheen. The main
Okay,
character is a profiler.
we're really good at this, aren't we?
We're great. You know what? 10 out of 10, no notes. Can you tell I didn't take my ADHD medication today? Um,
Oh
couldn't have, no clues whatsoever.
no.
Okay. The main character is a profiler whose father was a serial killer.
Okay.
And so his father's been like locked up since he was a kid, but he keeps like he can't really detach from him. Like he keeps visiting him, trying to figure him out.
Yeah.
And the father is Michael Sheen.
Okay. That would be very disturbing.
He's very good at it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. I couldn't watch Jessica Jones because of what David Tennant's character was.
I couldn't watch Jessica Jones for a lot of reasons.
There
That
were a few
show is
reasons. That
extremely
wasn't the only
triggering.
thing. Yeah, and I think it was the first, maybe second episode where the she lets a girl who she knows has been brainwashed into an elevator with her parents without searching her for a gun, and the girl shoots her parents. And I'm like, I saw that coming. I was
We all saw
yelling
that
at the
coming. Oh my.
screen. How fucking dare you? I hate a protagonist who's stupid.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
don't
there was way too much. I think I got like I think I watched the first episode and yeah, and it ends with the girl like shooting her parents and I was like, nope,
know.
that's I'm not going back to this.
Yeah.
And
Um,
and now
but
you
also
can't watch it at all because they've taken.
David Tennant as a sociopath was also incredibly disturbing and
Yeah,
not
yeah.
okay.
Michael Sheen isn't quite that kind of disturbing. Like the disturbing thing about him is how genial and likable he is.
He could
And
probably murder me without me noticing because I would trust him with a newborn baby.
that's how he's been getting away with it until he gets caught when his because his son like calls the police on him. But yeah, he so he's very like smiley, likable, hey, it's Dad, how are you? And then every once in a while you catch like a flash of him just like dead behind the eyes, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
So anyway, yes,
Yeah, I'll give it a
don't
miss.
watch it. I don't think you'd like it, but he does do a very good job, so I thought I'd tell you about it.
Thank you. I like knowing that my favorite actors are good at their job. I couldn't be an actor because I wouldn't want to go into that place. It's one of the reasons they're paid so highly. They take their bodies and minds into places that the rest of us would rather not go but need to know exist.
Mm. Acting, like particularly acting for film, like of anything I did in film school, acting was the hardest. That shit sucks because you have to do the same thing for so many takes, and you have to do it the exact same way or like slightly different, but hit your like it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to have a lot of awareness going on and also be in the moment.
Yeah, and also it's really hard on your body because you have to, yeah, do this whatever it is you're doing 18 times until it's the right take, and
Right?
yeah,
Yep.
no, acting's very hard.
Yeah. Um, we idealize them. We love you, actors. We think you're neat. I have been reading The Taming of Smeagol, the bits with the dead marshes, that whole 9 yards. That's where we're at with Avi, and I can't quite capture the Bobcat Goldthwait voice anymore because my voice gets hoarse almost immediately, and so he just ends up being really like gravelly and whiny. It's it's definitely not Andy Serkis.
No. I think if I recall correctly, I don't know if you were doing the Bobcat Goldthwait voice for Gollum. I think I was trying to hit a more like creepy child note
Yeah,
almost.
yeah, that's
Like a
where it's ending
hey,
up.
yes, sir.
A lot of the
Or
lines, have a yeah tormented child, Victorian child ghost.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
kind of vibe. Any hoozles. I know you'll roll your eyes, but I still kind of vote for Silmarillion because if I'm ever gonna get through that fucking book, it will have to be with you.
I mean, that is how we got through Lord of the Rings the first time, so I guess maybe.
And it might be rich in things to make fun of, and if not, we can skip to the bits that we know are really good. But we could take a Tolkien break and do Robin Hood first if you like.
Maybe.
Hmm.
Let's think about it. We've got what, at least a couple more podcasts worth of Lord of the Rings to go.
At this rate, yeah, when we're reading for 8 minutes at a time. Where the hell are we?
Frodo and Sam are on their way to meet up with the elves.
Do 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 do. Elrond greeted them. Do do do. Maybe. Did they already meet the elves?
Not yet.
The last pages are for you. Is that where we finished up?
Yes.
On September the 21st, they set out together. Frodo on the pony that had borne him all the way from Minas Tirith and was now called Strider, and Sam on his beloved Bill. It was a fair golden morning, and Sam did not ask where they were going. He thought he could guess. They took the stock road. What are you working on?
Nothing.
Okay, cool. They took the stock road over the hills and went towards the woody end, and they let their ponies walk at their leisure. Leisure. They camped in the They camped in the green hills, and on September the 22nd they rode gently down into the beginning of the trees as afternoon was wearing away. If that isn't the very tree you hid behind when the Black Rider first showed up, Mr. Frodo, said Sam, pointing to the left. It seems like a dream now. It was evening, and the stars were glimmering in the eastern sky as they passed the ruined oak and turned and went on down the hill between the hazel thickets. Sam was silent, deep in his memories. Presently he became aware that Frodo was singing softly to himself, singing the old walking song, but the words were not quite the same. Still round the corner there may wait a new road or a secret gate, and though I oft have passed them by, a day will come at last when I shall take the hidden paths that run west of the moon, east of the sun. And as if in answer, from down below, coming up the road out of the valley, voices sang, Elbereth Gilthoniel Silivrin Penna Miriel, O Menelagrel Aglar Elenath Gilthoniel Elbereth. We still remember, we who dwell in this far land beneath the trees, the starlight on the western seas. So Quenya totally is a tongue twister for me. I don't know if we've established that before.
Quenya is a tongue twister. I was actually quite impressed with how well you went through that.
Frodo and Sam halted and sat silent in the soft shadows until they saw a shimmer as the travelers came towards them. There was Gildor and many fair elven folk, and there to Sam's wonder rode Elrond and Galadriel. Elrond wore a mantle of grey and had a star upon his forehead, and a silver harp was in his hand, and upon his finger was a ring of gold with a great blue stone, Vilya, mightiest of the three. But Galadriel sat upon a white palfrey, and was robed all in glimmering white, like clouds about the moon, for she herself seemed to shine with a soft light. On her finger was Nenya, the ring wrought of mithril, that bore a single white stone flickering like a frosty star. Riding slowly behind on a small grey pony, and seeming to nod in his sleep, was Bilbo himself. Elrond greeted them gravely and graciously, and Galadriel smiled upon them. Well, Master Samwise, she said, I hear and see that you have used my gift well. The Shire shall now be more than ever blessed and beloved. Sam bowed, but found nothing to say. He had forgotten how beautiful the lady was. Then Bilbo woke up and opened his eyes. Hello, Frodo, he said. Well, I have passed the old Took today, so that's settled. And now I think I am quite ready to go on another journey. Are you coming? Yes, I am coming, said Frodo. The ring-bearers should go together. Where are you going, master? Cried Sam, though at last he understood what was happening. To the Havens, Sam, said Frodo. And I can't come. No, Sam. Not yet, anyway. Not further than the Havens. Though you too were a ring-bearer, if only for a little while, your time may come. Do not be too sad, Sam. You cannot be always torn in two. You will have to be one and whole for many years. You have so much to enjoy and to be and to do. But, said Sam, and tears started in his eyes, I thought you were going to enjoy the Shire too, for years and years, after all you have done. So I thought too once. But I have been too deeply hurt, Sam. I tried to save the Shire, and it has been saved, but not for me. It must often be so, Sam, when things are in danger. Someone has to give them up, lose them, so that others may keep them. But you are my heir. All that I had and might have had, I leave to you. And also you have Rose and Eleanor, and Frodo lad will come, and Rosie lass, and Merry, and Goldilocks, and Pippin. You just named half my children, Master, and you named one of them Goldilocks.
I was going to say, one of these things is not like the others.
I guess it could have been worse.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. And perhaps more
Could have named one of them. Could have named one of them Snots.
Rumpelstiltskin. I like to imagine, like, it's my headcanon that because they're a throuple, Frodo sat down with Rosie before now and said, "Okay, I've got to say goodbye to you here. Um, I'll say goodbye to Sam at the Havens. What is there anything I can give you before I leave?" And she's like, "Name my kids."
Yes. Although I don't think so. I don't know that it's so much that they're a throuple. I think they're more of a polycule, like a V situation. Like they're both with Sam, but not with each other.
Right? Although, yeah, but there's got to be some mutual love and respect there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And they probably have meetings that Sam never knows about. Just
Yep.
that's what the rabbit ears do. And perhaps more that I cannot see. Indeed, there were more. There were 13, I think. Your hands and your wits will be needed everywhere. You will be the mayor, of course, as long as you want to be, and the most famous gardener in history. And you will read things out of the Red Book and keep alive the memory of the age that is gone, so that people will remember the great danger and so love their beloved land all the more. And that will keep you as busy and as happy as anyone can be, as long as your part of the story goes on. Come now, ride with me. Then Elrond and Galadriel rode on. For the third age was over, and the days of the rings were past, and an end was come of the story and song of those times. With them went many elves of the high kindred who could no longer stay in Middle-earth, and among them, filled with a sadness that was yet blessed and without bitterness, rode Sam and Frodo and Bilbo, and the elves delighted to honour them. Though they rode through the midst of the Shire all the evening and all the night, none saw them pass, save the wild creatures, a fox with a hat.
Who was like, uh-oh.
So wait. Was that one of our jokes, or was that just something that we made up for Abby?
I honestly don't know. You and I have talked about it, but I don't know if we made it up or you made it up for Abby.
Right. No idea. Okay. Or here and there some wanderer in the dark who saw a swift shimmer under the trees, or a light and shadow flowing through the grass as the moon went westward. And when they had passed from the Shire, going about the south skirts of the White Downs, they came to the far downs, and to the towers, and looked on the distant sea. And so they rode down at last to Mithlond, to the grey havens in the long Firth of Lune. As they came to the gates, Círdan the shipwright came forth to greet them. Very tall he was, and his beard was long. He's the only bearded elf, and I don't know why.
I feel like we've talked about this.
Yeah.
But
But what
okay.
did we decide? Everybody else shaves, or does the magic hair removal thing? Maybe
I
they
don't think
all
that's
have
I
cut off beards, but they're just never mentioned.
just so it's like, oh yeah, Galadriel is a huge beard. I just never it just didn't come up.
I was picturing Celeborn like Santa Claus.
Have we speaking of things that could very well have been there and just not have ever been mentioned, have we talked about the meme called Gandalf Big Naturals?
No.
There's there's a meme that suggests that Gandalf had large boobs that were just never mentioned. A number of people have photoshopped this into stills from the movie.
Oh, we belong to a vast and varied fandom.
Indeed.
And it's possible Círdan isn't an elf, but I think he is.
I feel when we've discussed this before, there was some sort of conspiracy theory that was much more complicated than everybody else shaving about him being part something else or something.
Right? Part dwarf. No, that doesn't work.
No, I don't think elves and dwarves can crossbreed.
Right? And yeah, someday I'll figure it out. That's one of the nice things about being a Tolkien head is there's always more to learn.
Indeed. You learned about Gandalf Big Trolls just
I
today.
just did. There was something else. Very tall he was, and his beard was long, and he was grey and old, save that his eyes were keen as stars. He looked at them and bowed and said, "All is now ready." Then Círdan led them to the havens, and there was a white ship lying. Upon the quay beside a great grey horse stood a figure robed all in white, awaiting them. As he turned and came towards them, Frodo saw that Gandalf now wore openly on his hand the third ring, Narya the Great, and the stone upon it was as red as fire. Then those who were to go were glad, for they knew that Gandalf also would take ship with them. But Sam was now sorrowful at heart, and it seemed to him that if the parting would be bitter, more grievous still would be the long road home alone. But even as they stood there, and the elves were going aboard, and all was being made ready to depart, up rode Merry and Pippin in great haste, and amid his tears Pippin laughed. "You tried to give us the slip once before and failed, Frodo," he said. "This time you have nearly succeeded, but you have failed again. It was not Sam, though, that gave you away this time, but Gandalf himself." "Yes," said Gandalf, "for it will be better to ride back 3 together than 1 alone. Well, here at last, dear friends, on the shores of the sea comes the end of our fellowship in Middle-earth. Go in peace. I will not say, do not weep, for not all tears are an evil." Then Frodo kissed Merry and Pippin, and last of all Sam, and went aboard. The sails were drawn up, and the wind blew, and slowly the ship slipped away down the long grey firth. The light of the glass of Galadriel that Frodo bore glimmered and was lost. And the ship went out into the high sea, and passed on into the west, until at last on a night of rain Frodo smelled a sweet fragrance on the air, and heard the sound of singing that came over the water. And then it seemed to him that as in his dream in the house of Bombadil, the great rain curtain turned all to silver glass, and was rolled back, and he beheld white shores, and beyond them a far green country under a swift sunrise. But to Sam the evening deepened to darkness as he stood at the haven, and as he looked at the grey sea he saw only a shadow on the waters that was soon lost in the west. There still he stood, far into the night, hearing only the sigh and murmur of the waves on the shores of Middle-earth, and the sound of them sank deep into his heart. Beside him stood Merry and Pippin, and they were silent. At last the 3 companions turned away, and never again looking back, they rowed slowly homewards. They spoke no word to one another until they came back to the Shire, but each had great comfort in his friends on the long grey road. At last they rode over the downs, and took the east road, and then Merry and Pippin rode on to Buckland. Already they were singing again as they went. But Sam turned to Bywater, and so came back up the hill, as day was ending once more. And he went on, and there was yellow light and fire within. The evening meal was ready, and he was expected. And Rose drew him in, and set him in his chair, and put little Elinor upon his lap. He drew a deep breath. "Well, I'm back," he said. 3.5 years?
3.5 years.
All right. Hold on a
Cheers.
sec. Okay, so Appendix A, Annals of the Kings, fun shit. Love this crap. Al-Farazan is a fucking nightmare. Love these things. In 1974. Oh, this was the thing I earmarked because I thought it was so fucking cool. The Shire folk survived these wars. To the help of the king, they sent some archers who never returned. Etc. Afterwards, in the peace that followed, the Shire folk ruled themselves and prospered. They chose a Thane to take the place of the king and were content, though for a long time many still looked for the return of the king. But at last that hope was forgotten and remained only in the saying, "When the king comes back," used of some good that could not be achieved, or of some evil that could not be amended.
All right, pause. Hold up for a second. Let's take a moment to appreciate that we have finished the main part of the book before we jump into the appendix.
Oh my god! Oh,
what a journey!
What a journey! We're here.
Here we are.
We're back.
We're back. I mean, yeah, 3.5 years.
3.5.
One pandemic.
Yep.
I've moved at least 3 times.
Have you? No way. Have you?
Maybe twice. I've lived in 3 places, so I've moved twice.
Okay. There was a 4 or 5 month stint where we couldn't do this because your internet wasn't working.
Oh God, that's right. I had forgotten.
Yep. That was some bullshit.
Awful.
It broke my heart. I'm glad we came back. All right. So the only part that's actually important to read is the timeline, later events concerning the members of the Fellowship of the Ring. All right. Will Whitfoot resigns? Samwise is elected mayor in, 5 years later. Peregrine Took marries Diamond of Longcleave. King Elisar issues an edict that men are not to enter the Shire and makes it a free land under the protection of the king. In 3 years after that, Pippin has a son and names him Faramir. And the year after that, Goldilocks is born. And then Meriadoc becomes the master of Buckland. Peregrine becomes the Took and Thane. And King Elisar makes the Thane master and mayor counselors of the North Kingdom. Samwise is elected again. In 36, so this is like 14 years later, the king rides north and like spends a couple of years just hanging out in the north end of the kingdom and like visiting his buddies. And Eleanor the Fair is made a handmaid to Queen Arwen. Samwise is elected again. And then it's 20 years later now, and Sam and Rosie go to Gondor and spend a year visiting their friends. Eleanor the Fair marries Fastred of Greenholm. This is 30 years later now. Master Samwise becomes mayor for the 5th, 6th time. Faramir Took marries Goldilocks. Yep. Samwise is 96 when he finally retires from being mayor. And a solid 60 years after all of these events, Rosie dies. And she dies on Mid-Year's Day. And in September, Samwise rides to the Havens and takes ship to the elf home. There we go. And that's when he leaves the book with Eleanor at the tower. And then in 84, old King Éomer sends word that he wants to see his old buddies again. So Merry and Pippin like give all their office to their sons and ride out to Edoras. And then they end up dying in Gondor and getting entombed in the tombs of the kings in adjacent to what's his butt? Aragorn. Sorry, I don't have any ADHD medication to not take, but I probably should. And in 1541, so 120 years after everything Aragorn finally dies, and well, okay, then he's entombed next to the hobbits, and that's when Gimli and Legolas take ship and head out to rejoin the rest of the fellowship at Elfhome. So
Indeed. When Legolas walks in with Gimli and a smoothie.
it's a, and then they'll all just, there's 5 of them left. There's 5 members of the fellowship. That's more than half. That's really good. They get to live forever in the promised land and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine the elves are kind of like, oh god, did we have to bring all of these?
Why?
I also wonder, like, what do they have in the Undying Lands to help Frodo? Like, really good trauma therapy? What are we talking about here?
Oh, I'm sure. It's got to be that, or some kind of what's the rapid eye movement thing? The
EMDR.
EMDR. I bet they've invented EMDR in the Undying Lands.
Because wouldn't it suck if you were super traumatized and like having a bunch of mental issues and you were like, I'm going to go to heaven and that'll fix me, and then it didn't, but you were stuck there
And now you're
forever?
immortal because nothing
Now
dies. It's in the name.
you're immortal and still traumatized.
Oh god.
That'd be some
Yeah.
bullshit.
Right. Yeah. No, they've got something. And I bet by the time Sam arrives, they will have built some like hobbit sized
Oh yeah.
places to live because you don't want to be standing on fucking stools everywhere you go. And
Yeah, and he'll just like move in with Frodo in their new hobbit hole. But
yeah.
yeah.
And Gimli will join them when he gets there. At least sometimes, because it's closer to his stature. Yeah. I just it's still a boys club. It's such a boys club. I picture them sitting on the beach, like sharing a beer and
Mm-hmm.
talking about how they're going to like dig a fresh garden on the south side of the hill because that's where the sun hits it best or something, you know?
Yeah, or Gimli's talking about how he wants to excavate the hill that the hobbit holes are built into and see what's down there. And
Right.
they're like, how about you don't? And
and Legolas is sad because the trees here are beautiful, but they're not really his trees. And it turned out that Gimli secreted a bunch of seeds from Fangorn in his pocket, and Galadriel gets them to grow so that they could be like trees that Legolas is super obsessed with.
I'm just picturing Gimli like the kid from A Christmas Story, like, hello, and everyone's like, that doesn't seem right, but I don't know enough about dwarves to call them on it.
He's got like 50,000 pockets because dwarves are obsessed with pockets, and he's got
He's got seedlings in all of them.
everywhere, like a smuggler. A vest.
Hey kid, you want to buy an elm tree? Like the scene from it's like the scene from French Kiss where Kevin Kline pulls the grapevine out of his pocket.
Yeah. Only more so. And he'll have his own little Fangorn Mirkwood and yeah. I have a hard time picturing how big Elvenhome is. How big are the Undying Lands? Is it like, are we talking Hawaii? Where
I would assume bigger than that because all of the elves that weren't killed in various battles are there.
Oh god, yeah. Elrond is reunited with his wife. What was her name?
Celebriand.
Celebrian, yeah. Yep. Yeah. I wonder how much shit she gives him for leaving their beautiful daughter with a fucking human.
Honey, you're here. Where's our daughter. Elrond, what did you do? Darling, I haven't seen you in 300 years. Yeah, that's going to be another 300. What did you do?
I wonder if Gandalf maintains his snark in the Undying Lands.
Oh, God, yeah.
All right?
Can you imagine Gandalf without being snarky? Come on.
No, it would be terrible. It would be like a totally different character. Yeah, you can bet he's doing the like. So the elves decided that you needed something your size, and dug you this.
My opinion was not consulted. But I believe it is a tolerable hole. For its sort.
For its sort. Ugh. Pipeweed. Who brought the pipeweed seeds?
Sam.
Right?
And Frodo and Bilbo and Gandalf are absolutely thrilled because none of them thought of it, because none of them are practical.
No, they are not.
So they're just sitting there one day. He probably plants them somewhere that nobody knows. And then so they're just sitting there one day and like it's Bilbo and Frodo's birthday or something. And they're like, oh, wish I could have a smoke. That's the one thing I missed from the Shire. And Sam's like this? Surprise!
It would totally be him. It was 1,000% be him. Oh, and he'd get to spend like 100 years learning rope making from the people who came from Lothlorien.
Yes.
He always wanted to. Do you get younger? Are Bilbo and Sam now like back down to an age that's a little less decrepit? Because
I don't know.
Because Sam was 98 when he went over the ocean. I picture him getting younger as he goes in a very Theoden kind of way, you know, like.
I would hope so, because otherwise it would be a bit awkward when he gets there and his boyfriend is still like 35.
Yeah.
He's 90. He's
that
like...
wouldn't work at all. You're not a elf.
It's like, have you ever watched the original What We Do in the Shadows movie?
Yeah, but I don't remember it very well because it relied a lot more on cringe than the show does.
There's a bit at the end where whichever, I think it's Viago is the name of Taika Waititi's character, but he was in love with the woman and she was in the nursing home and then he bites her and then at the end they're like, people say all the time, what's this 98-year-old lady doing with a man 3 times her age? But we make it work.
I remember that. That was so cute. Oh, that was so cute.
All right. Well, we'll have to talk during the week about what we want to do next.
Yeah.
Because I was not expecting us to finish the book this episode.
It's eventual but abrupt.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah.
And it's hard to tell because there's so much appendix in the back of the book. You feel like you've got a lot left to go, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, that's a list of names.
Right? I still haven't gone through the entire appendix. I keep coming across things that I didn't know before, and that's fun. But it's not really read aloudable, and yeah, I don't know. If we had an audience, I would say ask them for suggestions, but I figure we can figure it out without any such.
I imagine we can.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for the time being, I will see you next week.
Cuidado.
Llamas.
Good night, darling.
Good night.